Hello, happy Aloha Friday. I'm Michelle Wynn, the International Peer Coaching Program Coordinator and a staff member at ISPO, which is the International Students and Programs Office. And just a really quick, brief introduction of our program. The International Peer Coaching Program is a collaboration between the ISPO office and the Student Success Coaching Program. And this program is 100% dedicated to supporting the success and retention of a specific cohort every year of international students at UC San Diego. And we offer a variety of coaching programs and services. And today is just one of those services. And we have this lovely panel prepared as a part of our Greater Professional Building event series, which for this fall quarter is about debunking and demystifying the American work culture and explaining to you all on the next best steps to jumpstart your future career endeavors. So now I am going to give the Zoom room away to our three international peer coaches who will be leading our panel today, Maho, Shagun, and Jasmine. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and, oh, yes.
I'm so sorry. We had a slide for your introduction and I should have asked you to introduce yourself first.
It's okay.
So sorry.
It's done. No problem at all. Now it's all yours.
Shagun, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Hi. I'm Shagun, and I'm the year C IPC. I'm a third year, and I'm a clinical psych major. I'm also an international student from Gurgaon, India. Something about me: I love coffee and dancing and procrastinating on Netflix, but who doesn't? Who doesn't? Now we can move to Jasmine.
Hello, I am Jasmine Mo. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. I am a third year in mathematics, secondary education, and at ISPO, I am an IPC for 7th college, the newest college. So I have technically 2 years of freshman as my cohort right now. And that's really funny. That's crowded, but really fun. Maho, go ahead.
Thank you, Jasmine. So hi, my name is Maho. I'm a IPC for Marshall College. I'm a second year transfer and I'm graduating next June. And I'm from Japan. I'm also an international student and I'm majoring in human developmental sciences. And one thing about me is I love boba milk tea. Yeah, thank you. So since we're done with our introduction, let's move on to our panelist introduction. So we'd like to move into our panelist introduction. So first, Karen, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, thank you, Maho. My name is Karen Dosher. I'm an associate director at the Main Career Center on campus. And I specifically support international students with their career development. So just to give a little bit of background on me, many years ago, when I was a student in college, I studied anthropology and sociology, and I had an opportunity to study abroad. I studied in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. And after I graduated, I ended up getting a job in Vietnam. I started as an ESL teacher, teaching English. I then became a curriculum developer and later a teacher trainer. And I ended up living in Vietnam for 7 years. So I have a lot of experience of navigating the process of getting work authorization in a foreign country. So as a US citizen working in Vietnam is quite challenging, and I navigated that process. And so after coming back to the US, now that I live in California, I spent a lot of time teaching international students from all over the world. And now I am a career coach for international students from all over the world. So I'm really here to help students prepare during their time as a student to prepare for their next steps beyond that, whether it's graduate school or working in the US or working somewhere else in the world. That's what I'm here to help with. And I'll pass it on to our next panelist.
Hello, Jason. If you could introduce yourself.
I was muted myself, sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason, and I actually graduated from UCSD just a couple years ago. And I began working at Cisco for a little over 2 years now. And while I was at UCSD, I studied mathematics and economics. And oh yeah, most importantly, I'm actually from China, and I luckily my application to my current job was selected, and I was able to get this job and to get it sponsored as well to work here. So I definitely had a lot of rejection letters in my mailbox while I was applying for a job as an international student. So this time when I heard this opportunity to share this one with you all about my experience, I'm definitely very excited to be here to share as much as I can and to kind of help my fellow Chinese as well. So
Thank you so much for your introduction. Yeah, that was really impressive.
thank you.
And Lynn, please go ahead with your introduction.
Yeah, so hello everyone, my name's Enlin. I was born in Fujian, China and moved to LA in the 4th grade. And I've just grown up there ever since and came to UCSD in 2015. I graduated from undergrad in 2019 with a degree in biochemistry and cell biology. And I was in ERC, so yeah, and afterwards, I went to grad school with the UCSD's BSMS program, and I am currently finishing up a master's in biology, researching Huntington's disease. And concurrently, I'm working part-time at a company called Genmark Diagnostics, where we make a lot of diagnostics products for different diseases. Mainly to identify what kind of bacteria or virus is causing the disease. So yeah.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
Thank you for introducing yourself. We can move to Michael now.
Hi everyone, I'm Michael. I am actually born in California, but I just talk a little bit about myself. I was a biochemistry cell biology major, class of 2018 at UC San Diego. And currently I'm working at Arcturus Therapeutics, which is right above campus as a research associate. And I have about 3 years of experience in the life sciences field. And I'm here because I would like to help internationals. My roommate and best friend since my sophomore year was international from China, Beijing. And from then on, I've always had international friends, and I've seen the struggles that they've gone through in just daily life, and then also especially once they start to apply to a job. There's a lot of hurdles that normal Americans don't have to go through, and I really feel for you guys and would like to help as much as possible.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet. We can actually move to questions now. Jasmine, would you like to go ahead and present the questions to our panelists?
Yes, I do want to add one more thing before we start our question. So for participants, if you have any questions for any of our panelists, you could type it in the chat and we'll get to those later. And if you could direct it to like one specific panelist, that it's great too, because you know their introductions now. Yes, so the first question for our panelist is, how can job seekers learn about a company's culture, whether it offers the traditional 9-to-5 jobs or a flexible work style? And I will give this first answer to Jason.
Sure. Thank you for that question. How can job seekers learn about a company's culture? I would definitely say from your initial interaction with the recruiters, right? And when you first pick up the phone call from the recruiters, and how are they responsive to you, or are they actively listening to you? Those are all good indicators of a company's culture. And while you're at the interview later, like, do they show their respect to you by turning on their camera? And when they ask you questions, and what kind of questions like the type of questions that you expect from them, you're hearing from them, does it really show that they are genuinely curious about you and your resume? Or is it just the general questions that they have to go through? Those are all good indicators. On another note, I would encourage you all to ask them about the company's culture, and even take a step beyond, saying, like, for example, could you please give me an example how that can validate what you just talked about, your company's great culture, right? And I think through concrete examples and specific instances, you'll definitely learn about it a bit more, and also they sound just a lot more real to you than just a very generic statement of it. So.
And thank you so much, Jason, for that answer. Does Enlin or Michael want to add to that?
Yeah, I can add to that. I definitely want to agree with Jason. You should ask during any interviews, any phone calls, what their hours are, what they can expect, how often do you need to work overtime? Because although they can promise you it is a 9-to-5 job, there are many exceptions during your working life where you may need to stay later, and you can ask them how often that happens, if it's expected at all, how lax the company is, the working style. Is there a lot of free time, or is it constant fast-paced work? Is it expected of you, or do you just have a set amount of work? And then also many companies and cultures change over time, especially with the life sciences. As the company's goals change, so does the culture change. And I see this about every half year, at least with the life science companies that I've been with. And so that would move on to the next question. But if what you are expected of in your career and your job changes over time, it's not odd to want to then get a new job.
Thank you, Michael, for being really ahead and answering our next question too. And yes, since Michael started it, I just want to read it out. The next question is it common for people to switch jobs within their career or stick with a permanent job? And does any of our panelists want to start this off? Or even Karen, if you know, like, if you have an answer for this, you could go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to go first on this one. I would say it is very common for people to switch jobs at some point in their career. There are a lot of times when you have just a desire to gain new skills or move in a different direction, or you realize that what you're doing isn't something that you're really passionate about. So kind of switching it up, pivoting to a new direction is quite common. Having a non-traditional or non-linear career path is also something we see nowadays. I can tell you from my experience, I pivoted many times in my career, and I will do so probably many more in the future as well. So I'd love to hear from our other panelists what their thoughts are.
Yeah, I think what Karen said is true. From what I'm seeing at my work, the team that I'm working with right now, I'm also a research associate at my job. And the team that I'm working with right now, about half the team, I think, joined probably about a year to 2 years ago. And so most of them, at least for my company, a lot of them haven't been there for a long time. There's a few that have been there for a while, but then, yeah, a lot of people switch around. I think I'm on the assay development team, so we make different tests for our product. And the director of that department recently actually just left because he found a better position at another company. And so we just recently hired a new director. And yeah, so I think, people tend to, people are always looking for, a job that suits them better or like something else that they may want to do. And so it actually is pretty common, I would say, because yeah, they want to, do something that they like or they want to hone up on their skills. So yeah, I agree with what Karen said.
And I do want to follow up with that answer of you, Enlin. Is it harder for international students specifically to switch jobs?
I would say a little, yeah, it might be a little bit more difficult in the sense that, of course, for international students, companies have to, there's all that sponsorship issue and other additional things on top of hiring you that a company might have to deal with. And so, if you present someone who's domestic versus someone who's international, with a similar kind of with similar like qualifications, usually companies want to go with someone that that just they don't have to do as much paperwork with. And so, but then I think if you have some skill or some sort of qualification that stands out, then you have a better chance of being accepted. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
And on that, I can actually comment a little bit more on that because I'm an international student, and I really want to answer this question for my fellow students also here, is that even though your options will be limited by how many companies are there, because not all the companies will sponsor, but when you landed the offer within a company, you can still explore a career shift within the same company. Give my own example, I joined Cisco as a very traditional business analyst. I was doing typical data kind of work for our sales operations, and one of my mentors at the company actually gave me a very great career advice, which is to don't let it restrict how I would imagine how far I would go. And ever since that, whenever I see a good opportunity within the company, I go ahead and grab it, and definitely I think you never know how supportive your colleagues and your team member at the same company, how supportive they are. And again, my own experience, I have made like 2 career shift already within the same company, so it's been really pleasant with working with them. And also I would say, yeah, definitely, first of all, definitely common for people to switch job around, and for international students it's totally possible.
Thank you, that's great to know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all of your inputs. We can move to the next question, which is about internships and how can international students look for off-campus internship opportunities. Considering I'm adding an aspect to that, considering our visa limitations. I would definitely maybe want to know something about that as well. Michael, would you want to start on that?
Sure. So there are many internship opportunities, and I believe as a student, the visa issue is a lot simpler if it's just an internship, correct? So you shouldn't, because they don't have to pay for you to stay in the US. So it's a lot less paperwork because you're technically on a visa already as a student. And there are many opportunities. Definitely Handshake teams up with a lot of local companies. You should go through Handshake and they'll tell you it's an internship. You can also do a lot of specifically off-campus internships. You can just call companies around. A lot of companies do post on different websites, on Indeed, Glassdoor, and looking for people with no experience whatsoever. So you don't need to worry about experience, just whether or not you're in the field and whether it's something that interests you.
Okay, thank you. That was really helpful. How about you, Karen? Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Michael just said, and I'll just add to what he mentioned about Handshake. For international students, I recommend Handshake as your first place to go for looking for opportunities because it lets you filter your search. You can filter your search based on employers that accept CPT and OPT work authorization or that are willing to sponsor for an H-1B visa. So again, Handshake would be the first place to start looking, but don't limit yourself to that. I also recommend networking as a strategy for finding opportunities. So like Michael was saying, calling around to different companies. Another strategy you can do is talking with UCSD alumni who work in the companies that you're interested in. Reach out to them, have those conversations, start building up your professional network. And the more people you talk to, you're going to hear about opportunities through word of mouth. So you might talk to somebody who's in a position to make a hiring decision and they find out what you're interested in, what you're passionate about. And they might say, hey, I have an internship opportunity at my company. You should apply for it. So again, it's that word of mouth through your network. It can be a really great way to find out about internship opportunities that aren't necessarily posted online. So those are two great strategies that I recommend to get started. And of course, if you're having any trouble, do come to the Career Center, reach out to a career coach for additional support because we can help you out.
That's some great advice, Karen. Thank you. I would also like to present this question to Jason and Emlyn. Do you also have any personal experiences with that that could be really helpful? Any of your comments are welcome.
Yeah, sure. For off-campus internship. So again, I'll just give my own personal example. I did find my junior year off-campus internship through UCSD Career Fair. Actually, at the time, like I was at the I think it was a winter career fair or spring career fair. I was there. I was lining up in a queue to waiting to talk to the other company. But then somebody and that's like another career booth right next to that one, and then she actually started talking to me, and then so I just picked up the conversation and started chatting with her and found out, oh, that company is actually really interesting and they do offer internships to international students. They don't care about your CPT or OPT. And then so that conversation actually led me to make that connection with that recruiter. And later on, she sent me a job link to apply for it, and then I applied for it through that link that she sent it to me, and I was able to get a first round interview. So it's I would say like opportunities, they do exist at a lot of places. You just gotta be I don't know, like curious enough to catch it, and yeah, that's my own experience. And also, I would say another great way to get internship opportunities is through your networking. You can network heavily with your, within UCSD, student orgs, career center alumni, and even your professors, right? And I know a lot of business professors, and they're pretty. They're very interested in being a connector in between companies and students. So for those opportunities, I think they're more likely will get you get your resume to be at least viewed by the HR, by the recruiters. Yeah, that's pretty much my comment on it.
That's amazing to know.
Yeah, I'd like to also bring up that note too. In my company, we actually have a full-time professor and also working as an employee, and we also use professors as contractors. So actually, a lot of the professors working with companies, either for their research or just personally because they enjoy that work, and so they're working, more hours in that field. And so you should definitely ask your professors what they're doing, in their free time, and if they have any advice for you or opportunities.
We'll definitely keep that in mind now.
Yeah.
Um,
Your answers on how and where to find the jobs and your like some personal experiences are so informative and valuable that I'm jotting down them for myself for later
I'm
use.
flattered.
Yeah, thank you so much. Those are really great experiences and information to hear. Our next question is going to be on whether school degree is more valuable than traditional work experiences when seeking a job. So you can answer this based on your expertise or the field that you're working in right now, whether a school degree is more important than, you know, the length of your CV, the length of your experiences in the CV. Does anyone want to start this? And Lynn, could I ask you to start this, Ashley?
Yeah, so from my experience, because I'm doing grad school right now for my master's, for life science field, at least, I believe for bachelor's degree, there's things that you can do, but there's like limitations usually for a lot of what you can do with the bachelor's. And so usually if you go for a master's degree for life sciences, it helps to improve your chances a little more and helps you to get to some more higher positions. But then I think if you really want to be able to design your own experiments or like be able to find kind of higher up positions for research, either for academia or for industry, I think in that case, usually you want to go for a PhD. So for life sciences, at least, I think degree does matter to an extent. Although for bachelor's and master's, actually, a lot of times, if you have a bachelor's, but you've had a lot of experience, you can also get some positions that might be open to a master's with a little less experience. So you can kind of see a bachelor with, like maybe around 3 to 4 more years of experience, about the same as someone with a master's degree. So yeah, that's what I would say for the biology field. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And does anyone want to add to that? Again, this could be from your experience only, or if you know generally, you could also talk more about it.
I would say
actually,
you can go, Sugar.
I wanted to ask Karen to comment on that specifically, since I know that graduate school, a lot of people apply to graduate school through the Career Center, get to know more about that. I personally am going to apply to graduate school, and I do want to know more about that as well.
Yeah, and then we can hear from Michael. Is that okay?
Yes, please. Yeah.
I'll actually let Michael go first, and then I'll give my response.
I would say when it comes to just finding a job, I would say it's not too much more valuable, but it's more of what you want to expect in your career, in your future, career life. What do you want to do? As the higher up you go in your education, the more freedom you get in what kind of job you're going to have and what you can do in that job. But there's, it's not like a hard limit. I've seen a bachelor who pretty much became a VP in a life science company, and the managerial role is not limited too much by degree, but more by experience. The more scientific route, where it comes to actual knowledge, some companies do have title limits for degrees, but some don't, and they'll actually, as you get to know the people with higher positions more, and they get to see that, oh, you're actually more knowledgeable, though they might actually put you in those positions. Though there are companies that do have in their handbooks like actual limits. So it just depends on which company you find, how much freedom you want in your career, and as well, people who have PhDs and masters, companies look at them as people who have already gone through like the struggle of a hard, working life. Like they know they can trust that you're going to do good work. If you can pass a PhD, they can trust you to handle projects by yourself, and they'll immediately hand you a project. Compared to a bachelor's, they'll have to, see how good you are after like a year or 2 years. And so a lot of it is, experience, that the way the company sees you, they know your experience or they don't know, and they're trying to figure it out.
I think that's a great response. And I'll just kind of add to that a little bit. It really does depend on the company and depending on the role that you're applying for. Let's say, for example, you were applying for an entry-level position. Well, if you have an associate's degree and 10 years of work experience in that field, you're probably going to get overlooked because you are considered overqualified. Whereas if you have a master's degree and no work experience, that's what they're probably going to be looking for. Somebody who's just starting out in that field. And then if you are maybe applying for mid-level positions and you have a master's degree with no work experience, well, that master's degree is kind of the equivalent of a year of work experience. So if they're looking for somebody with 4 years minimum and you only have a master's degree and no experience, they might not be considering you for that level of position. So just something to think about, making sure that you're applying for positions that you're qualified for and that you're a good fit for, that you're not overqualified, but you're not too underqualified either.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really helpful. I do have a follow-up question from Michael. Just personally, how do you know, like, if the interviewers are open to letting you do more than the degree? Since I know that a lot of positions, like you apply after you have a certain degree or have specific requirements for it. How do you know that, or how do you let them know that you're more knowledgeable or that you can do more than the degree, considering they have specific requirements whenever you apply?
So you can actually ask them if there are limits, because some of the companies usually have them in the actual handbook. They'll actually have limits for certain degrees. And so then you can actually ask them, oh, will I ever be able to be like in my field of scientist with this degree? And they say, oh, yes, it's possible, or no, it's not possible. And then they'll tell you, but you can switch to be a manager instead. And then you can go up that ladder, that career ladder. And for when it comes to knowledge, you would have to tell them through your own previous work experience. Like, oh, I have, worked in this field, for this many years doing research on, HIV virus. Or you can talk about your papers. If you've done any papers in the science field, like I've been a part of this paper, and they can look up after the interview your own research and then determine, oh, okay, this is his knowledge level. This is what he's done.
That is definitely helpful to know. Thank you. Now we can actually move on to Q&A and ask if any of the participants wanted to ask any questions. I'm sure our panelists will be more than happy to answer them.
And just to add to that, the questions could be general, or if you want to ask a specific panelist, please indicate so, and we'll direct it to the panelist that you want to ask.
So I have a question. So I'm like very interested, like just like in applying to internship this year, and I have just a general question. What would be like the one advice or like the best advice you would give like to a person like me, just like applying for internship as being an international student?
Oh, Paulina, do you mind if I ask you what your major is?
I'm a business econ.
Okay, and she is a business econ major. Does anyone want to answer Paulina's question?
Sure, I can help. I can answer that. So I studied math and econ, so basically kind of like similar major, and I believe our career trajectory will be pretty much similar as well. So my first role, the internship that I got was risk advisory in the healthcare company located in Irvine, and that might seem a little different than what you have pictured. Business econ, you want to do probably consulting or like investment banking, that kind of role. But I would say if this is going to be your first role, you're just going to take whatever you can, and especially as an international student, and also you might want to think about after this internship, what do you want to get out of it? Do you want to get a return offer at the same company, or do you want to go to somewhere else? And if so, how does that internship going to help you to land another offer at the next company? And also through that, you will be able to figure out your mind in terms of like, okay, so since I want to go to that next company, then what should I do during my summer internship at this company? What kind of side project can I get from either your direct manager or the mentors that you met inside of the company? And that again, that's just a very general planning for your own career trajectory. And in terms of how do you get that first internship experience, I think, like we said, I mean, just networking with your peers, with your club alumni. I was part of this organization called Triton Consulting Group, and I know at the time we did invite a lot of our Triton alumni to come over to the club to speak to our current students. And another way, networking with your professor. I think a lot of professors, they're great, especially professors at Rady. They've had a lot of work experience in the industry, so they do have the connections over there to get you a referral or something. And lastly, just apply a lot, submit a lot of applications. That should definitely work.
Thank you for the answer. Michael,
Sure.
Please go ahead.
Sure. I also want to note that for when you're applying as an intern, there's this expectation that you're not necessarily very experienced, and it's an opportunity for the company to teach you. And so they're not necessarily looking for something for you to be super experienced. They are probably more thinking, am I going to enjoy working with this person? Am I going to enjoy teaching this person? And so it's very important that during an interview that you smile and that you be the person that to them they would want to actually work with. And so smiling, having good energy is very important during these interviews.
Thank you. That's such good advice. We also have another question in the chat. I'll read it out. It's, are managers and bosses in the US open to challenges? For instance, if I have a proposal that is different with the manager's idea, should I tell him my proposal? This question is also open to all panelists. So any one of you if you would like to go ahead and get us started.
I would like to say that I think most companies like honesty, they like openness of ideas. So they want you to be able to share how you're feeling, whether negative or positive, of how the company is doing necessarily. They want to know that. And when it comes to proposing an idea that is different from a manager's idea, it is totally fine to just propose it. Whether it gets shut down or not, that's different. And so, if they say no, then it's okay. But it's always fine to give an idea. And so I don't think you should be afraid to do that. So I think what companies are fine with that.
I think also, I think when you give your bosses and managers your thoughts and kind of your ideas of things, it also shows them that you're engaged, you're thinking about the company's problems or like whatever you're trying to solve, and you're trying to bring in your thoughts and opinions too. So it shows that, one, you're engaged with whatever thing they're working with. And two, it shows that, you're for the company, you want what's best. So you're trying to bring in your own ideas too. So yeah, I think it kind of depends on the company culture, but I think for most companies, yeah, they're open to proposals and suggestions. So yeah, and it might even look good for you too.
Yeah, I could imagine it would lead to a lot of opportunities if you are someone who proposes a new idea and challenge the company's culture, maybe. That could be really good. Does anyone want to add to that? If not, so since the beginning, a lot of our panelists mentioned connecting with an alumni, or not a lot of alumni, like expand your network. And how are we going to do that? And I'm opening this question to anyone.
Get on LinkedIn. I think that's the most direct way, and also the most useful, efficient way. Create your LinkedIn profile, upload some pictures, and put on a short, brief description about yourself, and put on relevant education experience and job experience that you've had, and starting to hit that connect button. And also what I did back when I was in UCSD, there was a thing called eVisor. I'm not sure if it's still there. So I did use that. I got basically an instruction on how to register eVisor through Career Center. And I just connected with alumni on that platform and schedule phone calls with them. And yeah, and I even met up with a few in person to explore my career, to learn about what am I good at and what my strength is. And it's connecting with those who are more experienced will definitely help you. And so basically eVisor and LinkedIn, those are like two of my approaches.
And I will thank you so much for the answer. I will specifically ask Karen, sorry for putting you on the spot, but yes, can you give us your thoughts on that? How you could connect with other alumni?
Yeah, absolutely. I was ready to jump on in this one. It's a great question. So absolutely what Jason said, getting on LinkedIn, connecting with UCSD alumni. I think, Jason, you mentioned eVisor. Now we have Triton's Connect. It's very similar to LinkedIn, but it's entirely for the UCSD community. So it's UCSD students, staff, alumni, faculty, even parents of students. So it's a way that you can connect with people through this platform. You can find a mentor. You can be paired with a mentor who's working in your desired career field. So this is a great way to find people, get connected with people in an online setting. But you also have the people around you, your peers, the students in your classes, the professors in your classes, the professors in your department, staff on campus. Go to them and start conversations. Let them know what you're interested in, and see if there's anybody that they could maybe connect you with. Go to your friends. Who do they know? Who can they connect you with? Go to those people. Who else do they know? So you're really branching out your network, but start with the people you know first and see if they can get you connected with any of their friends or any of their supervisors or anybody else. So branching your network out that way.
That's amazing to know. I am pretty sure my parents would appreciate that too. They love being involved. And I could definitely get on my LinkedIn now too. Do any other panelists maybe want to add on to that? Okay.
That was pretty good.
We can move on to a different question. If anyone else has any other question, you can drop it at the chat.
Or we can move on to our last and final question. But for other participants, if you still have questions for our panelists, please feel free to do so. And our last question, Wow, could you please? Yes, thank you so much. What's your final advice and resources for international students who are starting to look for jobs?
I'd like to give some advice of hope, not to limit yourself. So I'm like a good example of somebody who pretty much, people would say I'm extremely lucky, but that's only because I didn't limit myself. So when you are applying to jobs and there's like requirements, like, oh, you need 10 years of experience, apply to that job. So actually that's how I got my first job, is one of those postings. I didn't have any experience. I didn't have any internships. And I got that position only because the person who was going through these actually took me on site to give me advice. And then through giving me advice, they actually decided they'll open up a position for me. And I got that job. And so you don't know exactly how things are going to work out. But many times people are thinking about hiring people at a certain position, but they haven't listed it yet online, but they listed a different position. And then once they see your resume, the hiring manager, while they're going through the other position, they'll save it for later. And then, whether or not they actually want to put that listing on, and you'll be the first one there. So, try not to have hard limits. Don't put yourself down thinking, oh, I can't do this position. There's no way they're not going to, like me or look at me. Like, don't think that. Just throw as much, of your resumes out there as possible.
Wow, that was really impressive.
It actually is. That's what I wanted to say. And we also have another question by a participant. The question is, in your experience, are the jobs you've been in more monotonous or varied in nature? And how do companies you work for keep employees happy? It's open to all panelists, so if anyone would like to answer.
How do companies keep your employees happy? Is that what the question is?
Yes, and are the jobs that you've been in more monotonous or varied in nature? I can actually paste the question in the main chat as well.
Thank you for doing that, Shagun.
Of course.
Thank you.
I can share. A lot of companies, they have lots of benefits, like benefits that you see while you're working. They'll provide free snacks. Some companies provide free lunch. They'll do weekly, monthly free lunches. They'll try to have fun events. They'll have events like, March Madness. So in March, people will play board games together. Or every week they'll do something special, like they'll have Tuesday muffins. And many companies will try to do things to make life more fun. They'll try to get teams from different departments connected through events. And I've been in jobs where it's both monotonous and not at the same time. Especially with life sciences, some people can really feel like it is monotonous, especially the lower level you're in, and because you are sitting down in a lab and pipetting. And it's really about perspective. Really perspective of, yes, I am pipetting, but what I am pipetting is different, and having the perspective of this is actually worth something. It has that purpose. I am, putting forth this vaccine. Because I worked with vaccines my first job. In my current job, I'm working with COVID vaccine. And so although it might feel monotonous, the companies try to put you into the company's like goal and purpose to see that you are doing something meaningful, even though on the daily it may feel monotonous. Every action and small thing is very important to actually, benefiting, depending on what the company is, like, actually people for their health, or benefiting, the company as a whole, and see that you are important.
That's definitely amazing to know. Thank you so much, Michael. Would any other panelists maybe want to answer to this question?
Yeah, sure. Speaking of, thank you, Michael, for bringing up the benefit part. And I think it's like the company will definitely want to keep its employee happy, because that's how, we have a very productive workforce, right? So like, for example, our in companies, they usually have their budget and like each quarter, and then specifically there's a certain amount of budget that's allocated for fun only, for like team bonding, or for example, if we can have a virtual lunch together, and then we can all have it expensed by like DoorDash or something, right? And even though now we are all remote working, and so with the use of those funds, and in our company, it's actually called a fund. It's allowed for each individual to come up with creative ways to spend the fund and to promote the spirit. And also, my company also keeps its employee content by allowing employees to do voluntary work, and then based on the number of hours you work for that particular nonprofit, and the company will actually donate money to that nonprofit work. So and also even give us days off to do such things. So those are really good things to me personally, because for example, last year, I think, while I was in San Jose, I did a beach cleanup, and then and that nonprofit org actually has registered some paperwork with our companies, and then me and a group of my friends working at the same company, we did beach cleanup for like 2 hours, and then we registered those hours in our platform, and then that nonprofit will actually get money out of it. So we feel it's a very rewarding and very good experience, not only from that we're bonding together to do meaningful things, but also the nonprofit that we like is getting paid. So those are some examples that I can give here.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Another thing is you can actually make big changes and impacts in your company. If people in general are actually not happy, because sometimes companies can have a certain way they do things, how they do work in general. That's just the way they've done it. And then as demand changes, that same pattern of doing things can actually not feel sustainable to the employees. The employees may not be happy. And actually, if most of the employees don't feel happy about the way things are, the sustainability, like the employees won't stay for long. They keep quitting, so they have to hire more. And so if you actually suggest, oh, like, I see that we're doing it this way, and most of us are actually not happy with this. Have you thought of changing it to be this way? And then you can actually provide a new format of how to work. And it actually ends up being, an actual true possible format. And then they actually talk with other people and find out that actually, yeah, people aren't happy with the current way it's done. It can actually change. You can actually cause a change in the company, the way it's formatted, the way work is done. It's happened multiple times already at my current job, and we're currently trying to change it again. So it's important to actually speak up. This is another example of the importance of speaking up, and also giving your own opinion and advice on how things can be improved.
Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure our participants appreciate all the advice they got. We have one last question from the participants. What kind of expectations do companies have for interns? I'd like to open that to Karen and Annalyn, since you guys haven't spoken yet. Do you guys want to add on to that?
Sure, I'm happy to jump in. It varies, but in general, I see that companies really want somebody who's going to be reliable, come in with a positive attitude, and also just being curious and willing to learn. even if you don't have the skills that are required, if you have those things, that's often enough to get in.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Karen said. I guess I came in kind of not really for an internship. It was already going to be like an employment position, but I think, yeah, just when you first start, they just want you to have like an attitude of just being curious and wanting to learn about everything that's going on. They like someone who, wants to learn about different things that they do, the way they do things, and like different ways they go about with their projects. And so, yeah, if you go in with an attitude of being open and curious, then I think companies like that, because then they have someone that they can really teach and help them to just be able to grow in their career field. So yeah.
The answers also really are really relevant to what we're having as our question right there, the advice for international students. Yeah, so I would like to close this panel discussion, and thank you so much for all of the experiences and information resources that our panelists shared with us today. They're hugely valuable for international students. And also thank you participants for tuning in with us today. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.